Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, Season 1, I believe. Let's watch.
I knew the moment that I filed the annulment and he found out about it that he'd want to talk because he wants to be in this country.
All right, so that's a little troubling that she might have been motivated to file the annulment, or at least tell him that she was filing an annulment because she wanted to talk to him, that she might have thought that it was a good tactic to use to suck him back into a relationship. I don't know. I don't want to accuse that. Let's continue watching.
We need to talk about the annulment.
We need to talk about everything.
No, we are not together anymore, so I cannot just keep talking about the marriage. It's not gonna work. I left her and that was a big thing for her, so that's why I think she's doing the annulment, just to hurt me or get me deported.
Yeah, I think that's quite clear. Now, whether or not you deserve it or not is up to debate. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think he deserves that, or do you think they should just let bygones be bygones?
You and Louisa?
Louisa is one of the women that I accused Mohamed of cheating with, and my suspicions were right.
You have never showed that you were here for me. How can you show that you're here for me when...
I'm not here for you anymore. I was here for you, but now I'm here for myself, okay?
So, yeah, I get that she's hurt. Obviously, she would be hurt. Obviously, she would be angry. When you get dumped, it's almost universal that you will have revenge fantasies in your mind, or at least revenge talking. You might talk with your friends and just unleash, he did that, and he did that, you wouldn't believe, and this sort of thing, and he was gross in bed, and all the things that it's kind of a revenge motivation, which is normal. It's not necessarily great, but it's quite normal. And I get it. But to actually try to actively get someone deported from the country because you believe that he used you. Now, I don't, we weren't there. We were not in his heart. He's saying he was genuine in the beginning. Now, he has said several times, different iterations of, I was never in love with her. I never had feelings for her. He basically said that. One time he said, well, I was hoping that feelings would grow or something. Well, so was that I truly was hoping that things would grow, or no, I never did have feelings and thought maybe things will grow, but if they don't, then I'll just leave her and I'll get to live in the States. I don't know. It's hard to tell what's going on, but I don't know. This is sort of an interesting moral dilemma, honestly, because on one hand, you feel for him and you feel like, look, you got a divorce and just move on. Don't destroy his life. And it wouldn't be. I also don't think it should be equated to be destroying his life because he doesn't have a job here yet, and presumably he'd just go back to Tunisia with his family and friends, and he'd be able to find a job out there. So it's not destroying his life. He doesn't have a life at this point in the United States. But it is destroying his future or destroying his dream, which apparently, or his desire to live in the United States. But it's an interesting dilemma morally. Is that okay? Because if it was fraud, okay, and then what is fraud? How do you prove that he was fraudulent in his heart? Because that's, I think, what it comes down to. You'd have to somehow prove, legally speaking, that he did not intend on actually being with her. So how do you determine that? Because it's not uncommon that as a relationship is starting to decline, that you might start cheating at that point because you're like, well, the relationship is kind of over. How do you distinguish that between, well, I gave it enough time for the green card and now I can actually start being more overt about my affairs or something? It's an interesting moral dilemma.
You're missing out on a lot of opportunities because you won't let the Mohamed chapter go. I think going into this, you need to not have a lot of high expectations.
I basically want answers, and I want to talk to him face to face.
Do you really honestly think, though, he's going to give you an honest answer?
I don't know.
Interesting. So she's stating her goal, which I'm always curious about. She's saying that I want answers. Okay, what kind of answers does she want? Now, what would be valid in a situation like that, in my opinion, is, did you ever love me? Now, of course, he's going to say yes. So, because he'd be deported otherwise. So I would say, if I was Danielle, I'd be like, well, I can't ask that question because there's no other answer. He has to say yes to that. So maybe I would ask, well, okay, how much did you love me? Or why did you fall out of love with me, or whatever, affection with me or something? What other question might she want to ask legitimately? Did you cheat on me? But again, he has to lie because he'll be deported otherwise. So I don't know if there's any kind of question that she would legitimately want to ask, which I would understand why she would ask those questions, that he would answer in a way that you would be sure that he was being truthful. So if I were her friend, I would say, maybe just text him those questions, to ask him in person. I don't know how well it's going to go, but if you want to meet with him and have a conversation of closure, of let's just say goodbye, I'll say the things that I appreciated about you, things I learned from our relationship, and maybe we can kind of be friends in the future. Let's see what happens. Hey, deserving listeners, as you all know, I am constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. Well, one of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp. If you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to betterhelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the promo code Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it really helps us out. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, which is great because you deserve it. And I know also that it can be hard to find a good fit, find the right one for you. Well, one of the options available in terms of your shopping is to go to betterhelp.com/Kirk. I've been told you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message your counselor at any time. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. I've also been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy, and you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide. So go to betterhelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month today.
And giving him the option of having a reconciliation with you.
With everything that we have found out about Mohamed, the pictures online, Beth feels that Mohamed should be deported.
As his wife, where do you draw the line and say, you know what, I don't deserve to be treated like this. Enough is enough.
This is starting to concern me, the power that this friend has and the power that Danielle gives to her. That Danielle might give off this dependent vibe, which, I've talked about with other cast members before. And she certainly fits part of the profile, Danielle, for a dependency, a dependent personality. Meaning that you believe that you're incompetent, you believe that you're a child, you need someone else to tell you what to do. And the friend and her would fit well together because the friend seems to really be almost like her mom or her coach or something. That's the vibe that it comes across. Now, if Danielle said something like, well, hey, friend, I appreciate what you're saying, totally get it. I'm going to give it some thought. But that's not what Danielle does. What Danielle does is the influence happens. But you also hear that Danielle secretly doesn't really agree with her all that much, which is a dependent thing to do. Let's continue watching.
I'm very worried about her because he's so manipulative with her. And she wants to believe everything he says. I mean, she's like a puppy, following her master, and I don't trust him. And
Makes total sense, and I could see anyone in her position having that observation of the situation. I think a lot of people watching the show would agree with that. I'm not sure, but what do you do with that energy? You're worried for your friend. Do you take over? Because if you take over, you're just another person that's manipulating her. You're just another person that's dominating her.
One of the reasons I filed the annulment is to hopefully scare him back to me. And I'm hoping he's willing to work on our marriage and we have that happily ever after.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't think it's going to work. Well, God, maybe it would, because he really does want to stay in the States, and he's in a bad position, I think. So, Danielle, scare someone to be your husband? So why would someone do that? Well, because they're so afraid of being alone, which we all are, and they don't believe that they can get someone to love them legitimately or in an equal relationship. So she feels like she has to trick people into being close to her. That's the way it comes across to me. Or she's a controlling person who is pretty awful as a human being, and this is just maybe the first example that we've seen of it. I don't know, just hypotheses. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.